I know of no one who has ever made this claim before, but I rather suspect that my experience is not unique. What perhaps is unique is the fact that I'm willing to talk about it. We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Welcome to the What If Podcast.
Greetings and welcome to the What If Podcast.
What's up, Spencer?
How you doing, man?
I'm great, bro. I'm better and slightly more creeped out now that I've listened to Philip K. Dick explain his belief of what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Before we get started, we have a guest with us this evening.
Shaklak, the homie's in the building. What's up, Max?
What's up, guys?
How are you?
A little creeped out after hearing that Philip K. Dick thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Besides that, I'm pretty good.
That was from 1977.
So the Matrix definitely pulled the deja vu thing like directly out of that, right? Or close.
The Matrix pulled from a lot of different things.
True.
But yeah, I mean, Philip K. Dick obviously would have been known to the writers of The Matrix.
Did you say
77.
77. Yeah, word. Do you know what that is from? Like specifically, like what he was doing when he said that?
It was some
wild
sci-fi
shit?
conference.
Cool.
Yeah, where he was probably like trying to sell copies of what was the movie or the book Blade Runner was based on? That would have been about that time.
While do androids count sheep? Or
Yeah. Was that it?
it was
Something like that.
Do androids dream of, it was like
androids dream of digital sheep.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
Whoa, crazy.
Also, call back to last night talking about Total Recall.
Oh, yeah.
He also wrote, it wasn't called Total Recall, but it's the short story that Total Recall was based on.
Still haven't seen that movie. Sorry, guys.
Not in the last 24
In the
hours.
last 24 hours since we recorded our last episode, I have not
That was your
seen.
fucking homework last night, dude.
I mean,
What have you been doing today?
dude, life
Job or something?
Life gets in the way of Total Recall. I'm sorry. Yeah, so we should probably clarify what in the fuck we're talking about today.
Yeah, our question is, what if we're living in a simulation?
What if we are living in a simulation?
Or should it be like we're probably living in a simulation?
What if we're probably living in? Yeah, it depends on our level of certainty we want to.
That doesn't work with the name of the podcast, I guess.
It's off-brand, man.
Spin off.
Start your own
We're
podcast.
probably ...
Yeah, start your own We're Probably podcast.
But it's a what if we're probably. So you have to do like, it's like less certain, but more like ambivalent versions of everything else we've done.
The Maybe If podcast.
The maybe if. Yeah, maybe if. Maybe we are living in a simulation.
Where to start?
Where do we start? So this is a really big topic. There are a lot of corners. Part of the reason we brought the homie on, because the homie knows more about this than I do, and I'll just gleefully plead my ignorance to most of this shit.
I guess I'm definitely like an armchair philosopher.
Yeah.
And armchair neuroscientist.
That's
and
still
armchair,
like several steps above either of us.
Yeah, we're like lower. What is lower than armchair?
Floor?
Like floor. We're like
Homeless?
beanbag?
we are beanbag philosophers and like beanbag comedians.
That sounds better, actually. That's what I want to be as a beanbag.
Well, backyard neurologist.
That sounds dangerous as fuck.
So yeah, where do we dive in?
Yeah, where do you want to start?
Okay.
I know there's like a lot
Well,
of
I mean, this is definitely a topic that comes up from time to time. And like, it's really easy to write off as like, Pothead Talk or sci-fi talk.
I think the first time we discussed this was probably ceremoniously around some of those.
Yeah, I don't smoke weed, but.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Good to clarify.
Cool.
But so.
That would be illegal.
I
It
do
would be,
like.
we wouldn't do illegal things.
Yes, exactly. I do like starting with this angle, and it's like, who is one of the smartest people in the country, would you say?
Mad Lib.
Matt. We'll start just naming like musicians we like.
I'm assuming you're going the Neil deGrasse Tyson angle.
That is one of the people, yeah.
Okay.
But also Elon
Neil's
Musk.
actually who I was thinking of. Okay,
Also Elon Musk. Elon Musk, to at least engage people who are skeptical of this idea, I think most people would say he's a pretty smart guy. And
yeah, agreed.
He was recently asked, what if does he think we're living in an elaborate computer simulation?
Do we actually have this audio?
Funny you should say that.
Why don't we rock the audio?
His
real
answer
quick?
sounded something like this.
If you extrapolate into the future and say, well, how good, let's say, will video games be in 100 or 200 or 1,000 years from now? If there's continued improvement and you're in a full body haptic suit with a sort of surround vision, and it becomes, beyond a certain resolution, indistinguishable from reality. And there are likely to be millions, maybe billions of such simulations. So then, what are the odds that we're actually in base reality? Isn't it 1 in billions?
Is it? I mean, I can give the counter argument, but I'd rather you give the counter argument.
Obviously, this feels real, but it seems unlikely to be real.
So,
all right. So that was the podcast. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. No, but carry on. So one of the smartest.
Okay, so this is
there,
usually my entry point to this argument. Even to the point when I was telling people like, oh, I'm about to do this podcast, and the theme is like, what if we're living in a simulation?
Right.
A lot of eye rolling happens and stuff like that. So just to like kind of legitimize like the rabbit hole we're diving down.
Definitely.
It's nice to have an intelligent guy
100%
be pretty convinced of this. And this isn't like. This is not like a theme or question that like is unfamiliar to us, or like us as like a race and a species. Like,
right.
This is definitely something like philosophers from like Descartes to Plato have investigated.
It seems like it's picking up a lot of steam lately, though.
It does, and I mean that's possibly because like, and this what's interesting about philosophy is that we are like sort of diving into like things that have been discussed in philosophy before, but like it's on the vehicle of like new technology. And probably one of the reasons it's like being discussed more often is because we can sort of like start to conceive and like see this technology from virtual reality to
I guess if you were talking about modeling the universe in even 100 years ago, no one would have known what the hell you were talking about. And now that we can actually do some version of some of those things, I guess it makes more sense to start pondering that.
Okay, so let's try to jump into the logic game that is the simulation.
I'm ready for it.
Theory.
Because I don't know it.
Okay.
So I'm about it.
Let's take these future descendants of ourselves as posthuman, which seems to be the most common word used in this argument.
Okay.
And that's just to say like a more technologically sophisticated version of us.
Okay.
Or posthuman. So there's three aspects, or there's three possible situations here. That all human-like species in the universe go extinct before they reach this post-human level.
This is number one.
That is one.
Okay. Say that one more time for me.
All human species, or all human-like species,
Okay.
go extinct before they reach this post-human level.
Seems like we're on pace for that.
Which seems exceedingly probable.
Okay.
Today.
But all is the key word,
right.
First
that
of all.
makes it way less probable.
Yep. And this is, I don't know if you want to like dive into each of these points.
I think we
on their own.
Let's run them down first.
Yeah, let's hear all three, and then yes, I probably do want to dive into this.
Yeah.
Number two, these post-human species don't have any interest in creating simulations. Okay.
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 I think
I'm there.
Just right off the bat, probably less on board with that one. But
and the third one is we are living in a simulation.
That third one seems way more likely than the first two.
Well,
because wait, repeat the second one real quick.
These post-human species don't have any interest in creating simulations.
So would that require that all post-human species?
Yes, all post-human species don't have any interest in recreating or in creating simulations.
wait, is that the only Is it the only, because isn't there also a possibility that we just never become, well, I'm going to find myself in this trap
kind of a fourth
all
possibility. There's kind of a fourth possibility that we are the most advanced
version of
species,
ourselves,
and we are the base level, and we are the farthest along right now.
and this is potentially coming.
Yep, that is a possibility. Usually throughout history, like when we think we're super special, that's usually
We're always wrong.
Yes, we're always wrong about that. So,
Well, and then
Chuck Klosterman's new book.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what if we're wrong?
But what if we're wrong? Which is sort of entirely based on the concept of.
Did I lend that to you, by the way?
I started doing it on Audible. You didn't give me yours, but I started listening to it on Audible.
I lost my copy of that book like immediately after reading it.
Did you?
I think I lent it to somebody, but I don't know where it went.
It wasn't me because I started listening to it on Audible. But that entire book is based on the concept of what if we always think we're like as far along as we're ever going to get, or we're at the top of everything, and then we find out we're wrong all the time.
We've been wrong like literally every time.
Is it? Oh yeah. So I guess that is the fourth version, because that's what I was going to say. Is like, isn't it a possibility that we're all just humans thinking about the idea of what if we lived in a simulation? Which is that possibility.
That is a possibility.
That is the fourth
But
possibility.
when Elon Musk says the chance that we are the base layer is like 1 in billions.
Well, once you accept that it's a possibility, then you kind of have to take that step. Unless there's maybe a situation where, because that argument is predicated on there being simulations within simulations, right?
That's a whole, yeah, I mean, that's like they're not necessarily predicated on it, but that's like an aspect of that argument, yeah.
That's part of his argument where he gets to the 1 in billions probability piece.
Absolutely.
Because if one civilization created a simulation, that doesn't necessarily mean that there are billions.
No.
It could mean that, but
there could only be like 2.
Maybe. I mean, if we had this ability to like make a super sweet, not even like video game, but like run a super sweet simulation, run the Sims, this whole society had the ability to do that, would there be 2 of them? You know?
I guess
not billions either, but
at some point there would be, though.
I guess because my initial thought. So this is something I was thinking about when we were like prepping for this episode, about the idea of like, I feel like this is gonna sound sort of stupid, but I feel like I look at it from like sort of a romanticized level when I think about simulation theory. I look at like everything in this room, and I like think about like the audio that's being transferred through this microphone into the computer, and the waveform we can export, like the level of specificity that goes into everything that's in and around us. Like, I feel like my argument against there being billions of these is like, it seems like this would be really fucking hard to get right.
Because like
what is right though?
You build
not right, but I mean like to do this in a way that doesn't fuck up.
You build the framework, and then your conscious beings in your simulation build the computers and the speaker wire. And
what do you mean by that?
I mean that these posthuman entities like did not write the thread in this rug necessarily. They sort of like
they gave us the building blocks to be able to weave the rug.
They built the framework. They created like the conscious entities, and we ran with it. You know,
look at our current explanation of how we all got here. There was a moment that we call the Big Bang, where there was a singularity, which no one really knows what that means. And everything in our universe came from that one point, and it took forever. And everything in this room was inside of a star at one. Like, if we were to model a universe, if NASA were to try and do it and it had the computing power to do it, you wouldn't set out to dictate every single piece of the entire thing. You would set the parameters and you would let it run.
Exactly.
But also, though, that's true. But also, like, the way that software works is that like there are dead ends unless you allow for there to be like fixes for dead ends, and dead ends can break the whole thing at any given moment. So like, if you could basically like if you can create processes that allow themselves to do things, but you have to allow for the ifs that can endlessly occur inside of like bugs. A bug can break an entire software program in a second.
I think it's kind of futile though to like imagine software on any sort of like level that we think about it today.
Because that's the thing, we can't do these things today. So envisioning our software doing it today, yeah, you're going to get stuck on stuff like that. But
it's more like the simulation would start with the Big Bang and you would let the universe play out, and less like you have to like build houses in your universe. And
Sure. I guess in my mind, then I would imagine that billions, if we're allowing for the fact that there are billions of simulations occurring at any given time based on a certain framework of like open playing field, like we flick the Bic lighter once and then let that motherfucker go. If we're allowing for that, I feel like if there are billions, I would say like multiple billions that ended up in like some version of just emptiness, like crap, like fell apart, nothingness, etc., etc.
For sure, you're just acknowledging how
I am. I guess,
the same thing could be said about like evolution and like the design we see around us and the symmetry we see around us.
I guess when I hear that the pitch that there are billions of simulations going on, I think of like sort of like endless locations in which there are like endless worlds that took different turns, and I guess probably there's some of that if we're allowing for this.
Our scientists now are saying that we are orbiting one of billions of stars in our galaxy.
Right.
Our galaxy is one of billions of galaxies in the universe.
Right.
We don't know what's outside of our universe, but there's probably something. So
there's more galaxies in the universe than grains of sand on the Earth. That's pretty crazy.
Also, just real quick, going back to your thing about like the bugs or the dead ends or whatever, that's where like some of the stuff that Philip K. Dick was talking about with like deja vu being sort of like a glitch.
Yeah.
And I think about with all of there are so many parts of our world that we still can't explain.
Yeah.
Like you look at the paranormal. Maybe that's some sort of glitch.
Right. Check out that paranormal episode.
But there are plenty of parts of our world that we still don't really have an explanation for.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's where we're butting up against sort of the limits of that program.
Right.
Where there are certain things that, at least for right now, we can't figure out or that don't make sense in the way that the other parts of our universe make sense.
Yeah. Like in that sense, like, when you like play a video game and you like slam into the edge of the map, like the edge of the world or whatever. Show? Or like in the Truman Show, yeah. I mean, we're nowhere close to slamming into the edge of that world. Like we there's tons of stuff to explore.
Yeah.
And I mean,
if we take at face value that we're never actually going to run into a wall that we can rip through out there.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
There we go. I was waiting for it. Like, I'm looking at you like, give it to me. I know it's coming. No, I'm just saying that like if you wanted to control a simulation to a certain extent, you could also like you could write in the fact that it appears to be as expansive as we think it is while not also being that expansive.
For sure. I would say not to hijack the conversation, but
no, hijack away, dude. I'm over here on my beanbag.
This is what's awesome. This is what's awesome about this about this conversation is that there are all these these threads we can explore and go down.
Absolutely.
Which I want to do, but like it's also the part where some people like roll their eyes and are like, okay, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I'm not rolling my eyes. I just poke holes.
I don't think you're rolling your eyes. But so let's return to the argument and let's talk about each point.
All right.
Deal. We were going to do that like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
See, this is how we roll though. We ask what if, man. Some things.
All right. So
go.
Point 1.
Yes.
All human species go extinct before they reach the post-human level. There is a theory about this called, I don't know if I know what I've done. Oh, the Great Filter Theory.
Okay.
Have you guys ever heard this?
I have.
I have not.
And it's the assumption that like, okay, if there's billions of stars in a galaxy and like hundreds of billions of galaxies or some insane number.
Yep.
Isn't it strange that we've like never had any sign of anyone else out there?
Well.
Yeah. I would say, but the Great Filter Theory suggests that like becoming a species and a civilization that can like access a certain point, that can get to like interstellar travel, you need to pass through like a lot of tests, tests that we experience now. Like allocation of resources and like not blowing each other up.
A certain amount of cooperation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is the great filter, is like being able to get past those things to, release yourself into the posthuman, into the greater.
So incredibly human-centric to me, though.
For sure. And negative.
Because, and also, well, two things about that. I think it's way more likely that even if we were to encounter some other form of intelligence, would we recognize it? Would it recognize us? There are...
Love it.
Intelligent, like, there are other human beings, literally the same species as us on this planet, that don't know that other humans are out there.
Right.
And that we don't know how to communicate with. And there are radio waves flying over their head every day and internet running under their ocean every day that they have no idea is there and don't have any concept of that even as...
They throw spears at helicopters.
Right.
Because they think that they're attacking them and they think they can hit them with their spear.
There are other animals on this planet that we're now figuring out may be intelligent. We can...
Isn't this...
For the first time, I just wanted to drop this in the podcast because it fucking blew my mind.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, scientists recorded dolphins having a conversation for the first time and are beginning to be able to translate the language of dolphins.
Tight.
So...
We got to do a dolphins episode, man.
True.
It's going to be dope.
True. What if you militarized dolphins?
What if you were a dolphin?
Just when you factor in that to like, we would have no idea what a species 1,000, 10,000, a million, a billion years
more
advanced. We wouldn't even recognize it. And then you factor in the time of like, human beings have been around for a couple 100,000 years at most. That is less than, a fraction of a % of the time that the universe has been around.
Yeah, like Neil deGrasse says on Cosmos, like from the time human species evolved into humans, or we got to our like dawn of man, it's like, I don't remember exactly, but
the calendar
on the cosmic calendar, it's New Year's Eve at like 11:59 and 47 seconds or something.
Right.
So absolutely, like the heart of all these conversations and like all this philosophizing and all this wonder is like, sort of encapsulating what you just said. And like trying to understand a sense of scale and perspective, while being confined to these bodies, this consciousness, this period of time,
Confined to our beanbags.
Or to our code.
Do you feel like... Well, you know what?
Confined to our code. That shit's real.
That is real. Let's
That's my memoir.
Shit, it should be. That's tight. We're gonna take a moment to absorb that, and we're gonna come back, and we're actually gonna dissect some of those points.
We weren't even through all three of them.
We didn't.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Went off on a tangent.
That's what I'm saying. We've been tangenting,
right,
so let's come back and let's dissect those points in a second on the What If podcast.
Boo!
Fuck you.
We want to hear from you. Send us a message. Email hi, that's hi, at whatifpodcast.com. Or leave us a voicemail at 612-246-4614.
We were talking about, on our break, we were talking about Tamagotchis. Didn't Tamagotchis make you feel like a bad person when you were a kid?
I killed a couple of those.
That's what I'm saying. It taught us all how to feel guilty as children because we were like supposed to take care of this digital doll that
This is what will happen if you have unprotected sex. It's just all a ploy by the fucking cult of the Catholics.
It was just to threaten you into feeling.
That's what you guys talked about on the cult one, Tamagotchis.
Tamagotchis.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like
what if your
mind conditioning
Tamagotchi
experiments?
actually died and like the device no longer ever worked?
What if
it was like an expensive mistake too?
What if the simulation that we're all living in is we're actually all Tamagotchis that belong to like another person, and when we die, it's because like our superior and higher beings like stopped taking care of us.
Wait, say that again. That's the next episode I'll do. What if we're all Tamagotchis?
What if we are all like the character inside of a Tamagotchi and there's a higher being that stopped taking care of us, and that's when we die?
That's the name of my memoir.
So we're back with the What If podcast. We're talking about what if we are living inside of a simulation? What if we're probably living in a simulation? And Max was espousing the 3 tenets or possibilities, I guess 4, of what could be happening. And we did not get a chance to dissect them because we were getting a little bit tangential. So let's jump back in and hit the first one and discuss its merits.
And Ryan and I are going to shut the fuck up for at least like the next minute and a half.
I promise I won't ask any more beanbag questions. No, it's not true. I will.
Okay. So point 1, we can discuss. All humans go extinct before they reach a post-human level. So I guess there's not like really a point we can assign to this post-human level. It seems pretty damn close in the grand scheme of things. You know, if we've been around for thousands of years, give us another thousands of years, like what the hell's going to be going on? You know?
I also feel like we're really close to nuking ourselves into extinction too, though.
Is the post-human term, is that a Kurzweil coined phrase?
I don't know.
Because I feel like it is, but I think he defined it as when we start enhancing our intelligence in some way. So we're no longer limited just by our physical brain's capacity. So either we're enhancing that in a digital way, or we're somehow connecting immediately to each other's brains. So it's sort of like a cloud computing brain where we can access information at any time. That if anyone in the world knows it, we all know it. Sort of like the Borg.
Hey Siri.
Yeah, but that it would actually be physically a part of us rather than a device that we carry around.
I mean,
I think that was his cutoff.
I guess I get that. I also get that. Like, what's the difference? I mean, it's a 3-second delay.
Well, I guess that's my point. Is that
we're close.
To me, it feels like we're rapidly approaching that point. That
sure.
If we really wanted to, and someone wanted to throw all the money at it, we could probably do that now or within the next 10 years.
Yeah. So, which goes to the point, like that one's a hard one to swallow. Right?
Yeah.
Like all species, all human-like species go extinct.
We have a sample size
before we can get there.
We have a sample size of 1, and it seems like we're probably going to get there.
It's a good way of looking at
it. If we aren't already.
Yeah. So
in some ways.
Optimistic.
Yeah.
Also, again, applying post-human to other species that we have no idea what they.
Yeah. Post-human-like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay, so
all right.
The 3 of us were all unwilling to accept that is the answer.
That happens 100% of the time.
Yep.
I mean,
I am at least.
I'm pretty pessimistic in that I think that there's a distinct possibility that we're all going to kill ourselves and each other.
Okay, but we're talking about every human-like.
This point says it would have to happen to literally every species in the universe.
Sure, and I think that like as a species, we are well on our way to creating a planet that is uninhabitable. I mean, I'm not trying to be like obstinate for the sake of it, but I do think that we are like well on our way to creating an uninhabitable planet that doesn't have water or food or like.
And therefore, that's the only possible outcome, though?
I don't think it's the only possible outcome. I'm also thinking that I don't think it's impossible that my hope is that our technology outpaces our idiocy as a species so that whatever damage we're doing, we're also creating technology that will heal the damage we're continuing to do. But I guess I'm saying I don't think it's impossible for us to kill ourselves as a species.
That's not what the point is.
That's not the point. It's that all anything that's reached our intelligence kills itself before it can take the next
100% of the time.
Okay.
You're saying you still agree with that?
I'm saying I still think it's possible that because we are flawed and we grow like almost exponentially as a species, that we could sort of like, it's like cancer. Like cancer is a thing that grows to a point until it kills its host and then the cancer dies because the host is dead. I'm saying I don't know that it's impossible that human beings are a reflection of that type of growth.
Okay, the reason this argument works though is because like all of these things seem unlikely to us.
Okay, I agree. So, at this point, it seems unlikely that we will not get to that point without, and we're going to be here for it.
You're missing the point of this so hard right now.
No. I'm acknowledging it right now. What are you talking about?
It's you just keep saying we as like humans. What this argument is saying is that any species anywhere in the universe and the billions and billions of stars and galaxies out there, that this happens to literally every single one of them
That's
without fail.
That's the great filter theory, which we talked about. That's essentially what that is.
I'm with you. I understand it.
The cancer takes over the host before you can make too much progress.
And there's never an exception.
Well, there's only one of us. Our sample size is 1. I'm saying there's nothing else out there.
Well, I guess I
disagree. I disagree.
Yeah.
That we're aware of, that we can prove.
Yeah, but it's more likely that there is than not, based on the billions of stars in our galaxy and the hundreds of billions of galaxies.
I guess.
But this is a whole nother, that's a whole nother podcast, I guess. You know, we can't get too caught up in that.
You'll have to come back. All right. I'm willing to understand exactly what's happening, and I will say yes. It is unlikely in the infinite possibilities of the universe that is the case. So yes.
All right, but you can bow out now if that's the one you're buying into. And then
I'm not buying into it yet.
Spencer
I'm just
and
saying,
I can finish the podcast.
If you want to leave, I would actually encourage it.
I'll go drink, fuck you. I'll go drink scotch in the living room and be like, nope, we're all going to die. I'll go watch a presidential debate and prove it in my brain that we're all going to fucking die. No, okay, all right.
Point two,
let's do this.
Point 2. These post-human species don't have any interest in creating simulations. All of them don't have any interest in creating simulations. This one's a little hard to swallow based just on how often we simulate shit.
I was just that's the first thing I was going to say.
An interest in
We're pretty into it.
Yeah. The Sims is like one of the most popular video games of all time, and it's literally the exact concept of like creating a world, living inside of it, having like avatar human beings. Like we're already doing it.
We're down to do it just to like fuck them later.
Yeah.
Ben has so much money invested in creating simulations of people just to stick your dick in them.
Yeah. Not even to actually stick your dick in them, to
simulate sticking your dick in them.
To digitally stick your dick inside of another set of pixels on the internet and feel like you have accomplished something.
I feel like that one is for sure wrong.
Yeah. And I mean, this one you could chalk up to like, when you're maybe you could say like, and I don't believe this, but like maybe you could say like, when you're post-human, you don't worry about such trivial things anymore or something like that. But still, there would be so much to learn if we could just like run these simulations, big bang.
Well, totally.
Where do you run into pitfalls?
Unless it's some sort of situation where in order to have the technology to be able to do it, you've surpassed the point where you would have any interest in doing it.
Yep. So that could be,
maybe
so that could be
sort of
point number 2, definitely.
Again, I would say it seems very unlikely to me.
Yep.
I would say with the extent that we are already participating in versions of this, and like we already do it with like silly computer things. Like we obviously as a species, and so would others, I imagine, we simulate things to learn things from them. We do it all the time. We do it with fucking weather. We do it with all kinds of shit. So it doesn't make sense to me that an intelligent species wouldn't look at like that type of history to try to work it into whatever they know. So yeah,
there'd be a ton to learn. Yeah.
So I'm with that.
So, I mean, and this is the fun part is that you like reject the first theory, you reject the second theory, and then like the third point is like we're living in a simulation.
And I guess that is number 3 is we are currently living inside of a simulation.
That's the end. That's the end of the game. The fourth one is that we are the base level, but again,
we are the most intelligent.
We are the most intelligent of all time. We're the fucking best.
Well,
man,
we don't have proof that we're not so far.
That's true.
It's also that,
except for maybe dolphins.
Well,
okay, so you could even add that fourth point, which I don't think is like technically in the original simulation argument essay, but you could add that fourth point. And all four seem unlikely.
It's equally unlikely to assume.
And the most likely kind of seems like we're in a simulation.
Oh, man. They're all really hard to eat, though. They're all really hard to eat.
But it's one of those 4 things.
What if it's the dolphins that are simulating our existence?
Psych. Jokes on us.
And in the world of dolphins, they fish like for a species and they just can human beings and eat human beings in cans.
What are you trying to tell me?
I'm trying to tell you. Neo, what I'm trying to tell you is...
Dude, how long did he go in that movie before he had a line of dialogue that wasn't just asking a question?
Did he ever stop? What is this? Where am I?
Even when he said, I know Kung Fu, it was kind of a question.
I know Kung Fu? Do I? You do now.
So Yeah, or as Musk says it, either we're going to create simulations that are indistinguishable from reality, or civilization will cease to exist. So we know how Ryan feels about this.
I don't.
Sorry, am I putting you on blast on your own podcast?
No. You can put me on blast all you want. This is like all we do as homies is put each other on blast all the time. But I think, to me, those two things feel like a toss-up to me. Like, I don't feel like one of those is significantly more likely than the other one. I'm kind of like, we could totally wipe ourselves out at just as soon as I feel like we could, like, our exponential increase in technology could create a reality that feels indistinguishable from the real world. I find those things in my brain to be equally likely and equally unlikely.
What if the great filter is part of the program of the simulation that we exist in as a way to limit these simulations within simulations?
Yeah.
As in to force them to bow out before they become just shitty and stupid?
No, capable of making more simulations.
Yeah, so I think it's a good, so like, what's this podcast called?
Whoa.
Is it called What If? What If? Right?
You are on the What If podcast,
Okay,
my friend.
The What If podcast.
Whatifpodcast.com, whatifpodcast.com.
Reality hits you hard, bro.
That's for real. So, yeah, so we've set up the argument, we're like willing to buy it to a certain extent. So what if we're living in a simulation?
Yeah, I don't know if it matters.
Oh, I super think it does. How does it not? Does it not
what
change?
What alternative is there?
What do you mean?
If we're living in a simulation along the lines of like a contained within a computer somewhere else simulation.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can't do anything about it. We can
Don't we immediately try to suss out and access that next level of intelligence then, though?
But we wouldn't be able to by definition.
Not by definition.
My computer
the fact that we're
can't-
having this conversation right now.
My computer can't like figure out that it's a computer and then like have a conversation with me.
It might super soon, though.
And then we'll be simulating very soon after that. So
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
no,
though.
and I brought that up because of your previous point about like simulations creating simulations, and that's where I think Elon Musk must get his billions statement.
Yeah.
Is that you make thousands of simulations, all which run through
with thousands of simulations,
and some of them figure it out. So,
or if technologically, I feel like if you are at a technological level, I don't even know what I'm talking about right now, what entity or technology I'm referring to, but if you, as whatever that thing is able to create a simulation as complex as the one that we're currently inside of, you probably have the resources to create as many of those as you see fit, right? Like, it doesn't seem to me that like that you would be restricted to being like, we could only create 100 because we're infinitely intelligent. Like you could create billions of them if you wanted to.
that's how you win the game.
Well, how so?
By creating simulations. When your simulation creates a simulation.
That's how you.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
sure.
then you push reset, and then
level
you
up.
like start over again. Yeah.
Or
you could level up. Yeah.
This goes back
Is
to
the singularity the reset button?
So this was always my curiosity was like, and maybe it is the creation of simulations inside of simulations, but like, is the singularity this like, as technology is increasing and storage and speed and processing power
as technology
is increasing over and over again, do we basically create like an energy that is so intense and insane that basically we blow the whole motherfucker up and then everything resets.
Come out on the other side.
Come out on the other side like 17 billion years later or whatever it is and start over again somewhere in a far off point in the galaxy.
We wrote a treatment about that.
Did we?
Yeah.
You and I?
Yeah, and Gabe's.
Do you have it still?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We talked about this. Don't put this on the podcast.
Yeah, wait.
This is.
Did we really for a movie?
Yeah, it was just more.
Oh yeah, I do vaguely remember.
It was called
this.
Order of Operations.
Whoa, dude,
It's deep.
dude, you're kind of blowing my mind.
What's my
right
memoir
now.
gonna be called? What's the first one? Understanding My Code.
No, wait.
Let me put my dick in that robot.
No. Oh shit, was it?
I can't remember. Good thing we're recording, but
Yeah, we can't.
Order of
check the
Operations.
tape.
That's what that was called.
Damn, that's crazy,
Yeah.
dude. I forgot all about
Yep.
that. But yeah, like, okay. So just to get back into it, I don't even know where a good in and out of that is.
Whenever anybody says this is not going on the podcast, I just leave it in. So
I suppose nothing would hurt that if we did keep that in there. So here's my question then. Does that mean then that we're inside of a simulation, that it has potentially the ability to create simulations and then can self-destruct and reset itself all entirely without the input of the original intelligence that like set them up in the first place? Are UFOs the technology that created us coming back to check out like firsthand physically inside of like touring the simulation that they created?
I don't know, dude.
I'm trying to think of if we created a simulation of some kind, what would that even look like to physically check on it? Like, could we dive in?
I assume it'd be like Google Maps times a billion.
Yeah, it'd be Street View.
Google Maps, but like with Oculus, you can just dive in.
Yeah.
So, but you wouldn't need
That'd
to.
be wild.
You wouldn't need to absorb a physical form.
That'd be wild. Well, and this brings like up another point that like someone I listened to a podcast at some point or read something where someone was saying simulation theory is a great way for atheists to talk about spirituality. And it's like because it can assign this omnipresent thing,
intelligence
outside of us that you can't really tap into,
Sure.
but
That you could maybe call God if you wanted.
exactly,
Yeah.
and maybe this thing could change, like the nature and the physical reality momentarily within this world, or so.
Yeah,
I thought that
a.k.a.
was
miracles, whatever word you want to assign to it.
Which would be like a reorganization of the code in its form.
Right.
I saw an interview when we were digging into this episode, or when we were digging into research for this episode, where there's like a guy he's like a scientist that Neil deGrasse Tyson was like interviewing on a stage, and who like legitimately believes that there are actual like zeros and ones in the equations.
Yeah.
It's from the Isaac Asimov conference.
Yeah. I wasn't able to suss out fully the understanding of it, but it like
James Gates.
Yep.
I think I have that.
I mean that's
audio up actually.
some way segues us into your other question.
Okay, so why don't we take like a quick second to breathe, and we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the evidence. We'll talk about James Gates and our zeros and our ones in our blood, and how convinced we all are of whether or not we are indeed living in the Matrix. We'll be back with the What If Podcast.
What is real? How do you define real?
New York City, it's March 7th.
Well, partly it's taken to these very strange images that are behind your head right now. These are pictures of equations. I've been, for the last 15 years, trying to answer the kinds of questions that my colleagues here have been raising. And what I've come to understand is that there are these incredible pictures that contain all the information of a set of equations that are related to string theory. And it's even more bizarre than that, because when you then try to understand these pictures, you find out that buried in them are computer codes just like the type that you find in a browser when you go surf the web.
You're saying your attempt to understand the fundamental operations of nature leads you to a set of equations that are indistinguishable from the equations that drive search engines and browsers on our computers.
That is correct. So
wait, I have to just be silent for a minute here. So you're saying as you dig deeper, you find computer code writ in the fabric of the cosmos?
Into the equations that we want to use to describe the cosmos, yes.
Computer code?
Computer code, strings of bits of ones and zeros.
It's not just sort of resembles computer code, you're saying it is computer code.
It's not even just is computer code, it's a special kind of computer code that was invented by a scientist named Claude Shannon in the 1940s. That's what we find very, very deeply inside the equations that occur in string theory and in general in systems that we could say are supersymmetric.
Who did we just listen to say some wild shit?
That was
James Gates.
Yeah, Dr. James Gates.
And he was
professor of physics and director for the Center of String and Particle Theory at the University of Maryland.
That's such a legit title to be saying some very wild shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the video of that like earlier this week, and I don't remember it being that wild at all. But also, I watched the video, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, as he's saying that, is like doubled over, like he's like bent in half, just like wait.
He told dude, just be silent for a minute.
Well, this is what I was
process.
This is what the point I was trying to bring up at the very beginning of this is that like in a weird way, the more smart the person talking about this, the more convinced they are. Than like, I don't know.
Didn't Neil
quintessential guy like sitting on his trailer in Wisconsin or whatever?
Yeah,
like, that's the skeptic.
Sure,
not this cat.
Didn't Neil in like a recent interview put it at like a coin flip?
It's actually from the same...
Oh, it's from this event?
It's the same panel discussion where...
But he put it at a coin flip, right? Yeah, he was like, 50-50.
In his mind, it's basically 50-50, yeah.
Which for a guy like Neil, who is like very well versed in, I mean, cosmos obviously at its core is like the history of like the universe. For a fool like that to publicly say 50-50, like that's a lot. That says a lot.
He's also not typically very open-minded about like... stuff that doesn't fit the current paradigm of science. Yeah.
Yep.
Like he openly ridicules any of the UFO, paranormal, anything, like just will go out of his way to roast any of that stuff. And just sort of generally is like by the book physics guy.
Interesting.
So yeah, even more, I don't know. It definitely gets my attention if he's putting some of this stuff forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Same with Elon. Like you started from the beginning, Max. Like,
and what's kind of crazy about this is that the analogy that makes sense to me because like, you know, computers are a technology that we use every day.
Yeah.
Is that like you put a photo in Photoshop.
Yeah.
You can zoom in, you can zoom in, you can zoom in, like sometimes for a really long time. But eventually you slam into a pixel.
Yep.
And then you look through that pixel and eventually it's ones and zeros. And then that's the end of it. And you can like apply that to real life somehow too. That like if you're looking at a Google Maps or something, you can zoom in, you can zoom in, you can zoom in, you can zoom into a person, you can zoom into an atom. You know,
go further and further into
until you hit zeros and ones.
And then eventually you hit a pixel. You hit what we perceive as like the end.
Right.
And what's
We
crazy...
thought we've been at that point several times.
We
so
did
it used to be like there was nothing smaller than an atom.
And what is this dude saying is the end?
Zeros and ones.
Zeros and ones, you know?
Yeah.
And that's fucking crazy.
It is fucking crazy, especially a guy... What did you say his title is again?
Professor of Physics and Director of the Center for String and Particle Theory.
If you teach physics and string theory to people and you believe there are zeros and ones at the bottom of everything, I have a really hard time disagreeing with your approach that we're living in a simulation. It sort of terrifies me still.
I know, I can hear it in your voice.
It's real, dude. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
And another interesting part of that is that, like, if you go deeper into this, and, like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand computer code or string theory at all. But as you, like...
We'll pretend, but we'll be wrong.
Start to dig. Yeah, can you just tell everyone like I'm some professor of something?
More
like
and more.
This dude is the professor of.
We'll just use more like progressively worse Photoshop analogies the longer we talk about this.
We only understand Photoshop completely.
We're referencing like CS3.
As you dig into the stuff that this dude is saying, you see computer code from like the dawn of what we understand as computer science.
He's referencing code from the 40s.
From the 40s, exactly. And like there's one called checksum, which is essentially like the, you know, very much like at the foundation of computer science and code written a long time ago, which essentially counts up the ones and zeros in a sequence to like understand how many properties there are.
Sure.
And that checksum, there's something very there's code that looks very similar to our checksum in our DNA.
Whoa.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Mic dropped. Everyone's gonna
honestly
go home
though,
like be confused.
That's the closest thing to actual evidence, or / is actual evidence of all the stuff we've been talking about.
Okay, so let's roundtable it. Now that we've covered some audio, we've covered some ground, we've seen the ins and outs of the philosophical argument and some of the actual evidence. What if we are? What if we're living in a simulation? Like Spence, like we are. Say we are. Let's say we're buying it.
I know without a doubt, absolute proof. I'm 1,000% convinced we are living in a simulation.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Let's see. What does that feel like?
On a personal level, I don't think I'd change anything.
Okay.
I don't know what you could change, or what your motivation would be to change anything that you do on a day-to-day basis. Like the entire history of me as a person, my family, everything I've ever known, the extent of human history, of the history of our universe has all been under these same rules, these same parameters.
That's real.
No one has ever known anything different. What could you do differently?
Do you want to tell other people, personally for you? Does it become like part of your mission to make sure that other people become like equally aware? Or does that kind of just like, I just kind of keep going on?
That's why I came on this podcast.
To reach a wider audience with your message.
Do I start my new career as a cult leader tomorrow? Is that what you're saying? Or the simulation theory cult?
Yes. Do you want to be a cult leader?
I don't know, and I guess that depends on our hypothetical situation too.
Yeah.
Was this information somehow given only to me? Or did this become just a universally accepted fact based on whatever evidence would be needed for that to happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Like
I think that's a separate question of
is there like a worldwide disclosure kind of thing?
Yeah, because honestly, like no one would believe me. You know,
True.
I'd probably talk about it in like a
Max
I would talk about it to like the 5 people I would normally talk about these things with.
Sure.
You know, like
3 of which are like kind of in the room right now.
And most of the people in my life like probably either wouldn't care or would like not handle it well.
Yeah.
You know, like I honestly don't think a whole lot of shit would change for me. I would probably like once a week have a lot of anxiety about it and then like
go
drink
to work
and then like fall asleep.
Go back at it.
Yeah. Like
take another step.
I'd have like mild panic attacks once in a while probably. I think would be the only change.
Word.
Where are you at? Or what would change for you?
I guess I can't necessarily like nail down like a day-to-day thing that would change for me, but I feel like mentally it would change a lot for me. I feel like with the whole concept of, you know, I grew up in a religious family, and I have largely abandoned like religion in my adult life. I guess wholly abandoned religion in my adult life. And my brain goes like religion as an entire concept in my brain is like fully gift wrapped and packaged and pushed out the fucking window if I know that we have a higher power that is creating us and there is no God in any way that we understand God to be as like humans.
/ you know exactly what God is?
Or that. The way that we understand it as humans today is just all super wrong. Mm-hmm. That to me changes a lot of the way that I like look at who am I? Why am I here? Do I have a purpose? Am I trying to achieve something? Like I don't know. I feel like some of those gut questions that we all kind of like deal with at some point of our lives, some sooner than others, some more than less. Some people don't ask those questions at all, I guess. But like a lot of those questions take a new shape for me. And I guess I don't entirely know what that is, but I do feel like they take a different shape. And I don't know, I feel like over time that would sort of change like what I pursue or why I pursue it. But I see you because I feel like I'm like, man, I guess I don't like make my eggs different. I like my eggs over medium with rye toast. I'm still gonna keep doing that. Like I'm not gonna not do that. So I guess it's weird. It's like I'm not gonna go be an evangelist and try to get a cult and followers. I'm not gonna make my breakfast differently. I still need money to do it from a job to carry on with my life.
Right.
So I guess there isn't a lot that like would change in my day-to-day, but I do think mentally over time I would stray in a direction that I'm not fully sure of. Also, I think I would dive into it more heavily than I have already. Like I would want to know more. Once I knew,
you'd show up at Dr. Gates's office tomorrow and be like,
hey man,
tell me
got
everything
some
you know.
questions. Yeah, I need to know about this.
And he'd be like, you got to go to college for like 8 years.
Yeah, you owe me $100,000. Max, if you knew tomorrow that you were living in a simulation, would you take more or fewer hallucinogens than you do now?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because I might, the one thing I might do differently is take as many as I possibly can to see if I can break the simulation.
Yo, I like that.
Maybe that's the way out.
Or I just flavor trip on the reg, you know?
Yeah, right. Flavor tripping. Friday night.
Yeah. Man, I don't really know what to say. Like, I have to agree with you guys that, like, I wouldn't do anything differently tomorrow. Like, I would get out of bed and I'd brush my teeth the same and I'd go to work. But kind of in the vein of what you were saying, Ryan, like, you think, like, fundamentally things would change inside you because there are certain questions that you deal with throughout your whole life, you know? And this would be an answer to a lot of them. And for me, I actually think it'd be sort of comforting, and it wouldn't be any more bonkers if someone said, you are living in a simulation, than if someone said, with certainty, Mormonism is the truth of the universe.
Sure.
You know? And it might, in that same sense, that to a Mormon, if they heard that Mormonism is the truth of the universe, it might be weirdly comforting somehow. Like, I don't think I would have any existential anxiety, you know? I don't think, I don't think I'd sweat it as much, man.
But like, okay, not to question your take, but like, I feel like the only difference to me would be like, if you learned tomorrow that Mormonism was like the one true way to like get to heaven and all that stuff. Like,
I've got like 4 more wives by the end of the week.
but like kind of though, right? Like, don't you like pick up and like go follow that and like you become a follower of Mormonism if you feel like that's like the way to get to heaven? Like, I feel like I guess maybe I shouldn't put words in your mouth. You're saying it would be equally as improbable.
If you told me tomorrow I was going to either find out Mormonism's the truth of the universe or that we're living in a simulation, I would probably lean a little towards
one of those is way more likely to be. Yeah.
A lot more
That's a great
towards
point.
simulation theory.
It does seem more likely than like any religion being totally true to me.
Yeah.
If we're taking them like literally rather than as metaphors and stories and shit.
Damn, that's a really good point. Damn.
Well, to get real meta, what would the posthuman entities think of this conversation we're having? They'd be like, "Oh shit!"
Would they be proud of us?
Would they be proud, or they'd be like, "God damn,
I don't think they would
fucking
notice.
Figuring it out, man."
There's probably some dude sitting in a warehouse somewhere who's supposed to be watching like 6 million of these simulations, and he's playing with his Tamagotchi instead. Like, there's no way you would keep tabs on those.
That or they think like we're trying really hard, but we're like so far off right now.
The
in terms of all the specifics
NSA is
are just like,
laughing at us somewhere.
These fucking idiots. They got none of this right. They sound like morons.
They're listening into the Dolphins conversation. They're way more worried about that.
It's way more interesting to them at this juncture.
Dolphins are so much closer to figuring it out. All right.
Oh man, Max. Shit. Thanks, bro. Anything you want to plug while you're here?
Where do I get my check?
Your check.
It's in the mail.
It's in the simulation mail.
Yeah.
It's in the simulation mail. Anything you want to plug personally, professionally, at all? Anything weird you just want to tell people to go look up because you think it's cool?
No,
whatever you want to do.
I hope you guys have me back.
I think
we'll do another one.
I think we're definitely gonna. I think we have some topics that lean towards the direction of your brain, so we'll definitely do that. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, gang.
On the What If Podcast. Take care of yourselves.
Do it again soon.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the What If Podcast. For show notes, transcripts, and links from today's episodes, visit whatifpodcast.com.